Welcome to GrayPrimer. My name is Nick, I'm your host, and today we're going to talk about where the channel came from, what we're doing with it now, and where it's going to go. Stay tuned! So this is it. It's video number 1, and we're going to talk a little bit about my history and the hobby of miniatures. We're going to talk about my favorite parts of that hobby, and why I decided to make a channel around that, and to not sort of dip my toe into the other parts that maybe are popular, but not for me. If you're completely new to the hobby, or if you've happened upon this video and you're just like, I wonder what miniatures are. What is this? Is this going to be tiny little, watercolor portraits, which are really beautiful, and I don't want to knock them, but no, this is all about miniature wargaming, made popular by the likes of Games Workshop, I guess. That would be the most well-known brand globally currently. You would have seen these in sort of movies and things of people with these tiny little painted sort of soldiers and monsters, and that's really not where I started into the hobby. I had the little toy soldiers when I was growing up. I think Britain's was the big brand back then, probably are still a big brand now, I don't know. I had them, but it didn't hold my attention. It wasn't really until I came across a game called Blood Bowl, which was an American football style game with fantasy creatures. I just so happened to have the box that I cycled into a neighboring town to buy, shoved into my backpack and brought home, and was completely hooked. It was these tiny little plastic figures. They had a plastic ball that they fought over, and it was just incredible to me. I just thought I didn't even have any notion that this world existed, that you could have these great fantasy creatures, and instead of having huge wars out in a battlefield, some fantasy battlefield, these guys were in small teams of blockers and throwers and catchers and blitzers, and they were in the dugout waiting to go onto the field and play football against each other. And I was like, what? Trolls giving goblins the ball and throwing the goblin down the pitch and being like, touchdown! And I was like, what? This isn't a thing, is it? And when I found Blood Bowl, I was just completely sold. But that lasts for a while, and it kind of, when I think one person has a passion for something in a group of sort of kids, it kind of spreads across to them, and they starting to get into it, and they start to get into it, or maybe it was them who infected me with the sort of interest in it. It was a long time ago, like 1989. I can't remember the details. But I was sold for a while, and I think life kind of gets in the way of those sort of childhood hobbies and interests, and maybe you put them into a box when you're going to college or something. They go up into your mum's attic, and that's kind of where they stay until you happen upon them 10 years later or whatever. And that's kind of what happened with me. I was doing a bit of a house clearance for my mum. I was just clearing some of the stuff in her attic to make up some space. And I found Blood Bowl, and I found boxes of like all the old miniatures that I bought and old paints and things. And I gotta say, unfortunately, most of it went into the bin. I just kind of looked at it, and I guess that's what happens. You find these things, and you're just like, right now, this isn't something that I have space in my life for. I know that I have to clear this attic, but I also don't want to, I don't have space in my life to take this stuff out of this attic and put it into mine. So a lot of it went into the bin. But the actual core Blood Bowl set, I couldn't get rid of that. And there were a couple of teams as well that I painted. There was an orc team and a human team. And I put those into the Blood Bowl core box, and I was like, I'll keep this. There's one thing I'll keep. It breaks my heart to look back on it now and think, oh, what did I throw away? There were great zombies and trolls and ogres and all sorts of things there. There was a full box set of a game called Dungeon Bowl, which was kind of like if you played American football in a cellar, with teleports and spiked traps and things like that. And unfortunately, that one went in the bin. But that's just the way of these things sometimes. And I'm kind of glad, well, I'm really glad that I hung on to the core set. At least I had enough sort of sense and space in my life to hang on to that. So the time passed and I kind of forgot about it again. I was thinking, I was actually chatting to a colleague in work in my day job, and we were going off to like a big sort of symposium thing, a summit, and we're going to be roomies, and I knew he was into board gaming, I knew he was into miniatures, he backed some stuff in Kickstarter, and we chatted about it from time to time. And I was like, I could bring Blood Bowl, and we could, in the evenings, like big nerds, we could sit and play Blood Bowl. And he was like, cool, do that, that'd be amazing. So anyway, I found it and opened it up and started to try to catch up on the rules and work out what was going on there. And then I was kind of feeling that those little hooks getting back into me, and it had been a long time since I'd felt that sort of lure back to that world. I'd spent the in-between years doing a lot of creative projects myself, a lot of photography, a lot of, I guess, writing and drawing as well. I just had that sort of urge to be creative in some way. But when I started to read back into Blood Bowl and go through the miniatures, and I just felt it starting to come back, and I was like, I can totally paint these. I wonder what you need, what brushes and all of these things. I just didn't know. I had no idea. I did have the old 89 and through to 91 paints. Amazingly, the old Citadel flip top pots, they had a little peely bit that, to open the pot, and then you propped it up and it actually kind of stayed open. There's a little reservoir in the lip. You know the type. But I realized that a lot of the pots that I'd had that were sort of, saved up in my mum's attic were actually still usable. Some of them needed a stir, some of them needed sort of added a bit of water, and for sure there were a few that just had to go into the trash. But I started to experiment. I went into like a stationery store and found what paintbrushes they had, and got frustrated because as soon as I started to use them, that the ends all curled around like this, and I was sort of paint around a corner, and I didn't know why any of that stuff was happening. I didn't know why the paints weren't going on smoothly. I hadn't a clue. So I went on to YouTube, and then that's when those tiny little hooks that had been put into me by opening up that copy of Blood Bowl to bring to a work summit, that's when those hooks really just sort of completely stuck in. And it was a lovely feeling. It was a lovely feeling when I went into those YouTube videos and realized there was this huge community. There were real experts there as well. There were people who were talking about all the different types of brushes, the brands, the type of, what the different synthetics did, the different sort of natural fibers did, the brands that they recommended, the ones they didn't, all their personal experience. And I was like, this is so cool. And then all the counterpoints of other people out there who buy maybe cheap hobby store brushes in a multi-pack and can produce stuff that's award-winning. And I just kind of thought, this is so cool. And then I got into paints and all the videos about that and all the different mediums and the techniques. And to me, it was just so eye-opening that this community existed, that these experts existed. And then I started to look at the minis, and I just couldn't believe that in such a relatively short space of time, since the sort of early 90s, how much the technology of minis had changed, how much they were able to hold detail in plastics, the actual variety of things like poses and ball and socket joints and all these really cool things, the detail in faces as well, which you used to have to paint on, in all honesty. Because I remember sort of Blood Bowl teams and stuff where I had no idea what I was looking at when I was zoomed in the face. And I wasn't even primed. I was just looking at the bare pewter or whatever the metal is they use. Probably lead. And I couldn't really see if I was looking at eyes or a nose or cheeks or anything. And now you've got probably eyelids, wrinkles, nostrils and stuff. And I'm just... I think it's absolutely a golden age of miniatures right now, and there's something for everyone. There are cheaper brands. There are ones where you can sort of dip your toe and try like something like Reaper Bones or Whiz Kids and sort of get a feel for like buy one or two minis that jump out at you, and you can go the whole other way too. You can go for the miniatures like Raging Heroes or Creature Caster, who do limited run, ultra detailed, quite expensive minis, but ones that you would have on your shelf as real centerpieces, and ones that you would sort of consider taking a little bit more time to maybe paint or modify. Because of their cost, you would sort of go the extra mile to try and make something that's not just tabletop ready, but maybe competition ready. So where does that place me? Where am I in all of those things? And honestly, I love so many parts of this hobby, you know, from window shopping online or actually through a window in a game shop, to putting them into my basket, to buying them, to, you know, waiting for them to arrive, like a dog at the door waiting for its master. You know, I swear to God, sometimes my postman must get a fright. To unboxing and, you know, building them and, you know, modifying as you build, priming them, to painting them and you know, going gaming or exhibiting or doing a competition, something like that. For me, I guess it peaks when I've built them and primed them. I really enjoy that process. I enjoy you know, it sounds sad, but I do enjoy like shopping for them. And I have multiple mega wish lists with different online retailers that will never ever get moved to cart, but still, it's, you know, it's lovely to look at those thousands and thousands of euros of minis and games and just be like, oh, one day. That day will never come. But that's kind of cool. I like that as well. I like seeing what's out there. I like, you know, seeing what's coming up on the pre-orders, the new releases, exclusives, and things like that. And then when they actually arrive, when you actually get to buy one or two of them and they arrive, that unboxing, seeing them on the sprue or in their baggies or in sort of the plastic compartments in, like, you know, board games of where the minis are pre-built. Oh, just so cool. So cool looking at them up close in detail. And then, you know, going into that sort of building phase, and if you need to modify them, if you need to like take off a weapon or add something to it or pull something from your bits box to make it more interesting, that's just my favorite part of all. That is absolutely the pinnacle for me in the hobby. In my part of the hobby is that. And then I prime them, and once they all look sort of uniform like that color wise, I get to really appreciate sort of their differences in all their sculpts and, you know, poses and postures and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of where it stops for me. I do occasionally paint them, but the reason I called the channel Gray Primer was because most of my minis end at that stage. They end at the Gray Primer stage, and I'm not really a great painter at all. I'm okay. You know, if I sort of put my mind to a technique or something, I can generally get it, but it's not where my love for the hobby lies. And that's cool that for others, that's their pinnacle. You know, that's the part that they enjoy the most. And I think that's what's cool about this, is there's so many parts of it that you can be into. You might hate building minis, or you might hate painting them. You might hate all of these things, and all you want to do is game with them. And that's so cool. If that's what you're into, that's what you're into. What I'm into is buying them and building them, priming them, and then just kind of looking at them. I think they're very, very cool to just think of the hobby in all of those different parts, find out what you love the most, and probably over time that'll change. You'll get into different parts of it. A few of my friends are on me about gaming. I was at the GaelCon convention in Dublin recently, and they were trying to get me to roll dice. They were playing this huge BattleTech game. I was just sitting there building, what was I building? I think it was actually Reaper minis. I was cleaning Reaper minis and modifying them a bit while they were playing away for like sort of, I don't know, 6-7 hours. And eventually they got me to throw a few dice. I don't know what I was throwing for, but there was sort of horror from one side and joy from another. So Yeah. So if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. If you want to do them for gaming, then, you know, all power to you. I like to get them gray primed and then just kind of look at them. What we're going to be doing on the channel is going to be a lot of unboxings. We'll look at different ranges of minis. We'll be sort of looking at the likes of Kings of War, Shield Wolf, Blood Bowl. What else? We got Age of Sigmar stuff coming up. We got Malifaux coming up. And I'll be looking at those, unboxing them with you. I'll build them up, get them gray primed, and then we'll get them onto camera again, and I'll sort of give you my thoughts. So the channel won't just be about the miniatures themselves in, you know, sort of their own boxes or whatever. It'll be boxed games as well. For sure, I'll gravitate towards boxed games that are miniatures driven, and I'll be talking, you know, at length about the quality of the miniatures that come with them. In some of those boxed games, such as ones from Come On, or I was going to say Parabellum, but I think Parabellum's minis are in sprues, just like Games Workshop's. So let's say Come On's games, which are pre-built, such as The Others or Zombicide, in all its various forms. I'll be looking at those miniatures, those sort of pre-cast ones, or the pre-assembled, and seeing that, you know, is that something that I'm happy with the quality of them coming out of the box, or do they have mold lines? Do they have maybe gaps in where they've been put together that will need addressed? Certainly for brands such as Reaper and WizKids, I've noticed that sometimes they actually need to be taken apart, deconstructed, and then sort of prepped and shaved and sort of trimmed down and then put back together in order for them to eliminate a lot of the gaps that are there. It happens from time to time. But we can dig into that as well. So there'll be the box games. There'll also be, I subscribe to a monthly Reaper loot crate from Mighty Lancer Games in the UK, and that's very cool. That's a cool experience opening that out, and it's just, you know, you get, I think, 6 or 7 Reaper Bones characters in there. We'll unbox a few of those together. I think I've a double coming up in a couple of weeks, and I'll look at sort of the quality there, the value for money, the work that needs to be done to get it to a point where I'm happy enough to prime it or paint it. We'll also spend some time on different manufacturers. So you might have me focusing on maybe Mantic one week, or Games Workshop, or Shield Wolf, and looking at a few of their minis and seeing sort of the value for money, the actual quality, the variety in the minis that are available, the different ranges, and all of those sort of things. And I'll spend some weeks where we're just sort of talking about the tools of the trade, you know, what I use to put minis together, different tools that I've tried over time, stuff that's, you know, doesn't work, or stuff that's I wouldn't be without. I can talk about the hobby travel kit that I have, both for painting and for building, that I put together. And I'll also go into things like, you know, the paints that I use occasionally, and the brushes and things like that. All the things that I went looking for on YouTube, I want to add a voice to that group of, you know, sort of contributors. I want for other people coming into the hobby, there's another option, another, you know, counterpoint, or help them to make good purchasing decisions. And that's really the core of it, you know. That's what the channel is going to be. We're going to put out one video per week. It may get more in the future, but for now we're going to aim for sort of a Friday afternoon. So what can you do to support the channel? Keep watching the channel. That'd be fantastic. You can like, you subscribe. If you want, you can switch on notifications. You can comment down below. There, you know, hopefully there'll be, you know, lively discussions down there about the stuff that we talked about. The only ask that I would have for that is that you keep it inclusive and family friendly, and supportive as well. We don't want to turn people off the hobby, and maybe they don't know as much as you, maybe they're not at your skill level, but let's keep that something that is like I say, a supportive, inclusive, family friendly environment. Let's get more people into the hobby. Let's get people better in the hobby, increase their skill level, increase their knowledge about the tools, the types of minis that are out there, all the things. You can also contribute over at the Facebook page, on Instagram. Go over to our merchandise store, GrayPrimer.com, and buy t-shirts and hoodies and mugs and stickers and the like. There's a mug just here in frame with a huge Nurgle dude on top. In this case, you'd really want to give that cup a good wash before you drink from it, because Nurgle feet just are not sanitary. If there's anything on there you think like missing, if there's a type of merchandise you think we should sell, let me know in the comments below and I'll see about adding it. The creating that store was a lot of fun, and the reason I did that was because I'd been to a lot of conventions looking for t-shirts or hoodies or something that I could buy there that would proclaim me as sort of a supporter of the hobby. Is, you know, come and talk to me about it if you're into it or if you're interested in finding out about it. But I just couldn't find anything that sort of jumped out at me. And, you know, my sort of love for the hobby, what I'm into, there's a lot of D&D stuff and magic, and it would be disingenuous for me to wear a shirt that proclaimed me as a gamer when I'm much more of the sort of the modeling side of it. Much more into the miniature side of it than I am into the gaming. So I was like, nah, I'll just design my own, and here we are a few months later. So yeah, you can definitely go on to GrayPrimer.com. You can also use the affiliate link down below from Wayland Games. They very kindly gave me an affiliate link which allows you to click on that. You can purchase stuff at the normal discounted price over on their store, but you get I get a kickback with, and you know, from anything you buy over there using that link, I get a small kickback, which is really awesome. That does not mean that any of my reviews will be affected by that. I work very hard to keep bias out of my reviews, so it doesn't really matter to me if I'm getting an affiliate kickback from you clicking on that link. A lot of the stock, or all of the stock that I currently have for review coming up in the coming weeks and months, I purchased myself. I was really, you know, looking at those wish lists that I have that I mentioned before on all those different online stores, and I thought, if I was to invest, you know, in this, I could probably justify that and be like, yeah, I'll spend, you know, a few €100, I'll save up, I'll spend that, I'll get all the stuff in, I'll review it. So all of that came out of my pocket. There may be cases in the future where companies, where developers will send me out free stock to review or unbox. And while that's amazing and great, it will not affect how I review them, the fact that it came to me for free. And I can't even guarantee that I will get to review it, but I will try. But yeah, absolutely. The integrity of the channel and of all the different sort of variations of that across Instagram and Facebook and even the blog and my own merchandise store, we want to keep that as genuine as possible, keep the bias out of the reviews, and just because something was sent to me for nothing, it's not going to affect the way I look at it. And that's kind of us. That's kind of Gray Primer. What's coming up next? Well, right after these messages from our sponsors, there's our review of the others. So what I'm going to be doing is unboxing that, getting stuck into all the minis and the materials that come with it that I'll probably never use. But I'll look at that, and I'll have a look at the artwork as well, because from glancing across at the box, it looks pretty spectacular. I'm excited to see those Mike McVeigh designed minis and get those really close up onto camera and see all those details. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see much more of you in the future. And please comment below if there's anything you want me to change or add. Take care. See ya.